Good morning and welcome to Positive Fandom, everybody. I'm and of course, we have today with us Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, RM. How are you?
I am exhausted. I was up very late last night streaming, so I am very, very tired. I have coffee here and it will be
Me too.
consumed. I did not get enough sleep, but that's okay. It was a great show last night, so that was good.
Yeah, I saw it
Um,
pop up in my stream actually because there hasn't been a midnighter for a while, and I saw it pop up this morning. I haven't yet watched it, but I'm sure it was good. I think you were discussing some of the stuff we're going to discuss today. Stranger Things been one of those, and the boys you were talking about. I haven't seen the boys yet, but yes, I'm looking forward to watching that. And did you also not stream with Lorena beforehand?
I did. I did stream with Lorena beforehand, and so I streamed for about 2 hours before, and then I rested for a few hours, and then I streamed for 4 hours after that,
Oy
from
vey.
12 to 4. So it was kind of a long night, but it was a great night. Yes, Lorena and I did stream together. We were talking about Stranger Things as well. It's such an incredible show, Russ, and I know that we're going to be talking about it. And good morning to you, Tom. Junior Jackson.
The
He
man, the
says,
legend.
he says hello at Positive Fandom. Well, hello, Tom. God bless you for getting up and doing the show with me. If I feel this way, I know how you feel. Um, thank you so much for being here. As always, we are all good people, Tom, and it is always great to see you in the morning. Zachariah 315 says good morning
Hey,
to
Zachariah.
us here. Yeah, it's so great to see you. We also have Retro Nerd Girl is here this
There she
morning.
is. Hello, Retro Nerd Girl.
Good morning to you guys. And of course, subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl. She's a fantastic channel and just celebrated her 6 year anniversary on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely please check her out when you get the opportunity. Darth Plato is here this morning.
Salway Darth Plato.
Yes, Darth Plato says, hail chat. Well, hail to you, Darth Plato. It's always wonderful to see you. And of course, guys, I am streaming simultaneously on Twitch. So please do, if you are on Twitch or you go on Twitch frequently, go ahead and subscribe to me on Twitch. Subscribe to me here if you have not already done so. And thank you, everybody who is here this morning. Renz Talentino is with us here. Hello, Renz.
Hey, Renz.
And of course, Renz is a fantastic artist. Check out his work on Instagram as well. Mario Lopez is with us. Hello, Mario. How are
Hey,
you?
Mario.
And, it's been such an interesting, it's a holiday here, Russ. You're here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the July 4th weekend, and it is a festive weekend, but the weather in the Northeast, it's a little cloudy. Normally, this would be kind of a beach weekend where people go to the beach and they spend all weekend at the beach, or barbecues or parades, fireworks, all that good stuff. How's the weather where you are, Russ? Because I'm in New York and it's cloudy and it looked like it was going to rain. Not exactly the kind of weather a lot of people were hoping for.
It's brutally hot here. For me, it's I think it's about 80, something like that. It's very, very, very hot.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, as for the 4th of July, I'm probably just going to hide in the basement in case I don't want to get dragged out and wrapped in a Union Jack and thrown onto a bonfire or something like that. So no, I think we're going to be doing some fireworks or something like that because
Yeah.
where I'm living here, it really is. If anyone's been to Maine, the outskirts of the towns in Maine, it's just the middle of nowhere. Like the next door neighbor is like miles and miles away over in that direction. So yeah, so I think we'll just do a sort of family thing and a couple of fireworks and oh god, what's the thing that I have to eat? It's like a chocolate sandwich,
Oh, a s'more.
a s'more.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
apparently I've got to have a s'more because I've never had a s'more. So
You
I'm
have
go-
never had a s'more? And when you're a
no, it's
chocolate lover, you're gonna love the s'more, Russ. You're gonna
well,
love
it's
it.
it's it's not a thing in England. So they're saying, "Oh, you got to have a s'more." I'm like, well, what's one of those? So I'm embracing it. I've got my Brooklyn Bridge mug here, and no doubt I will be forced to wear a baseball bat and baseball bat, baseball cap, and fire off some guns or something like that. I don't know, but embrace my American culture. It's going to be a fun time.
Well, I have to say, you are putting a smile on my face, hearing you talk about everything that you have to look forward to this weekend. And it is a really nice weekend. It's the holiday falls on a Monday, so a lot of people will have off Monday, and so it's an extended, extra long weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. As you know, I live in Long Beach here in New York, and this is a huge weekend for us. And we have fireworks around this area pretty much every single day between all the different towns near here. It's almost constant, and people were putting out fireworks. Yet last night, fireworks were going off. So that was. I knew it was coming, but it's still kind of unsettling sometimes to hear the boom. So, it is very interesting. And Darth Plato says, funny explaining to the British gent about 4th of July are, well, I'm sure he knows. Russ, I'm sure you already knew about this holiday already, but every state has a different way sometimes of celebrating it, and they have different traditions and things. But the fireworks and the s'mores are pretty common, barbecues and
Ubiquitous, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Dennis Mason says, gimme, gimme, gimme s'more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like corny jokes, Dennis Mason. So you knew I would like that very much. And Dennis says the fourth effing rocks. It does. It's
Do
a
you know what
great.
else effing rocks? Stranger Things effing rocks. But before we get to that, Keely is here.
Yes,
Hold the
Keely
phone.
Chow. Keely Chow, how are you this morning and what's going on? Hey to you, Keely Chow. So good to see you. And Tom says to check out his Instagram, guys. Tom does an amazing, amazing Instagram feed where he features his pops doing incredible things, guys. Do check out Tom Jr. Jackson's Instagram
Our,
and look.
do
Yes.
we want to throw up a spoiler alert about Stranger Things? Hey, Mikey,
Hey, Mikey. Yeah, maybe we should do
we
that. So
should.
let me
So,
get the banner ready.
so while Aram is doing that, I think we're gonna go chat. We're gonna go full spoiler on this because I binged this on Friday, I think, and I think Aram binged it yesterday. So we got through the entire parts, the final two parts of Stranger Things, which were a bit of a marathon. Actually, I was surprised that they did it in that format. I thought, well, why not just do it episodically? Um, but yeah. So how's that? What's Tom saying? Nobody wants to throw up. That's no.
I don't know. Let me just get back to the comment section. I can't see
That's okay.
that
I got
right
it. I
now.
got it. He's probably
What's
talking about the shmoo thing, whatever it is that I have to eat. Probably be little bit sweet for me, to be honest with you. But I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna
You're
give it a
gonna
go.
like it. I have a feeling you're gonna like it a lot, and it's gonna be a pleasant surprise to you. And you're gonna have more than one. That's my prediction.
Okay.
It's fun to enjoy it. I think you're gonna love it. Um, Dennis says the Hollywood Bowl will be turned into a crater by a B-2 flyover. Bad joke. Hmm.
I don't. Yeah, I don't get
I
that
don't
one.
either. I don't know. But thank you for chiming in, Dennis Mason. We do appreciate it. And of course, I now have the spoiler banner at the bottom, Russ, about Stranger Things season 4. That's what the S4 stands for. So
Hmm.
if you have not seen Stranger Things, this might be a good time to not be here,
Yeah.
because we are going to be talking spoilers and ruining it. So if you haven't seen it and you want to be surprised, this is the time to check out. We don't want you to go, but we will be definitely talking about Stranger Things in detail with spoilers. So Mikey Lito says, don't feel bad, Russ. I haven't s'mored yet either. Oh, you haven't had a s'more yet either, Mikey Lito? I'm very surprised that you have not had a s'more. But it's very funny that we're even talking about this. Yeah, it's you got to have a s'more.
Hmm.
Tom Jr. Jackson says check out and subscribe to Mikey Lito's YouTube channel. Mikey Lito also has a channel, and we certainly should take a look at his excellent reviews. And Russ, I can't get over how incredible Stranger Things season 4 has been. And they did this incredibly interesting split, which they've never done before. We've always gotten all the episodes and we can just kind of watch them.
Mm.
They decided to hold back on a few episodes, one that was an hour and 20 minutes and another one that was 2 hours and 20 minutes. The
Yeah.
length of an actual movie, Russ. Boy, the Duffer Brothers, they are just unbelievable in what they've managed to accomplish. What did you think about the length and what we got from season 4 just in general of Stranger Things?
Well, as I said before, I think we've touched on this in previous streams, but excuse me, after the bang average, if pretty poor season three, there's been a serious course correct on season four. This was quality from beginning to end. And you remember, actually, I wasn't going to watch it. I was like, no, I'm done with this. It's crap. And somebody in the chat was going, no, Russ, you've got to check it out. And I thought, okay, all right, I'll do it. I'm on a pop culture show. I'm going to have to watch it. Um, and I was hooked from episode one all the way through to the end. The characters re-engaged me. Um, like how they were playing Steve for laughs in the last one, and all that sort of thing. And I think that in season three they just went too far with everything, and they relied way too much on member berries. Having said that, there was an awesome pop culture reference in this season, when they are going into the soldiers going to the Area 51 base, and the colonel turns around and says, "Quarter and search by twos. Hicks, take the upper level," which is a direct rip from Aliens. And I was just going, that was a nerdgasm for me. I really really enjoyed it. Um, and so they had a lot of those small moments, but I think the overarching plot, it moved things forward. I like that they did a sort of Viking slash Last Kingdom thing with the kids. And even though this is supposedly taking place 3 4 months after the end of the last season, they've changed their characters because no one's going to buy into the fact that these are supposed to be 13-year-olds. It's a non-starter, and they've just basically played into the actors. If even if they're older than what they're playing, they're believable as teenagers as to what they are. I thought that the relationships were very well handled. I also thought that, yeah, as I said, this progressed the characters in lots of different ways. There's a speech from Steve, who's my second favorite character in the show, it has to be said, when he stops talking about, I don't know, he starts to talk about his future, to the guy that he used to go out with, and he's talking about, getting a motorhome, and he wants to travel the states, and he's got kids and all that kind of thing. And it's little bits like that that you can see the character development coming along. Like he's no longer a jock with excellent hair, although he does have excellent hair. He's now reached a phase in his life where perhaps Steve is thinking, working in a video shop probably isn't for me. I should start thinking about more mature things. And also, that line pays off later on when he tells her, but my dream of the motorhome was actually, you've always been there. And you're kind of thinking, oh, they're going to get back together, and ultimately they don't. And I I kind of like the downbeat ending of this.
Mhm.
Um, I it was not a convenient ending. It wasn't a thing. Oh, we have to leave them a cliffhanger, and they kind of do at the end of it. But a lot of things are wrapped up here, and none of it was particularly good, other than some of them survived, and I think that was great. And I know we talk a lot about, um, the woke message, and in yeah, what do they call it, gender politics and all that sort of thing. But I think that the fact that we are pretty much confirmed now that Will is homosexual, that scene was heartbreaking. And that is how you handle a topic like that. For me, that was just when he's looking at the boy that he's fallen in love with after all these years, and he's telling him that I'm actually welling up thinking about it, because it really got to me, that scene. And
Mhm.
he's saying to him, Mike, she loves you, and all this kind of thing, and she's the one for you, and you have to be with her. And all the while his heart is breaking while he's saying it. Oh my god, that was one of the best scenes. One of the best scenes in this season. It really, really was. Yeah, I can't fault it. And hey, Stubble, and hey, Gary. Um, yeah, just a shout out to anybody that's coming in. I know it says it on the bottom of the screen there, guys. We are getting into massive, massive spoilers on on season four of Stranger Things. I've already spilled the beans about a number of things, so uh, depart if you must, if you don't want. And I do recommend, if you haven't seen it, do depart, because it's definitely worth a watch. What else? And of course, let let's talk about Eddie, shall we? Um, Breakout character of the season, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I've seen, and I spoke to you about this, and I see that you did this. YouTube is now awash with Eddie Munson playlists, and I see you put up a version which I think is really, really great. I would have gone more heavy metal. I see you went into the I think you went into the thrash a little bit too much for my taste there. Or I was more about the Dio and the Saxon and the Iron Maiden, but each to their own. Yeah, fantastic character with a complete arc. I like if I think they overcooked it a little bit with the I'm not a hero part, just to remind people that he wasn't. Um, but that it was a complete arc for that character, beginning, middle, end, and of course the Master of Puppets sequence. We all knew it was coming, right? And it was always going to be Master of Puppets. When he says earlier on in the season, oh, he's like some kind of puppet master. I thought, oh, I know what they're going to do here, and I kind of forgot about it until he went to get his electric guitar, and I thought, oh, here we go, and I knew then what the distraction was going to be. What the hell? How much balls have they got to kill this guy off? That was a shocker. I did not expect it. I rather thought it might be Max. I thought Max might go, and of course she's now on the verge of death at the end of this show. But I was very, very surprised that Eddie was offed in the show.
Sacrificed. He was sacrificed.
Well, he sacrificed himself. That was
Mhm.
the key moment. We're talking about arcs here. He started off, and he kept saying, you see it. They show, they don't tell. He runs away, and he runs away again. Then later on, he explains it. Um, that he's always run away, and this time he's not going to run away, and he doesn't, and he sacrifices himself for the group, much like the Dungeons and Dragons character that they sort of base this whole party off, and he was the one that saved them all by doing the right thing. And the scene then with Dustin and his uncle at the end of it, in the high school where they've turned into an aid center, um, again was very, very touching. So there were some moments in this. There were some excellent, aliens quotes and things like that, and there were laugh out loud moments, and it was pretty scary. One, which we now discover is kind of behind all of this, was a scary bad guy, and yeah, and it had a lot of touching moments. Yeah, 10 out of 10 from Russ. What did you think?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said. Well, practically everything. Excuse me. And I was going to say that we got longer episodes it was just high quality entertainment. And guys, do check out Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington's channel on YouTube as well. And you did already say, but hello, Stubble, and hello, Gary. And we are talking spoilers. There's massive spoilers for Stranger Things. So if you don't want to hear the spoilers, this is not the show for you this morning, guys. And hello to Memes of Destruction. Hope you are well today.
Big spoilers, memes, big spoilers.
Big spoilers for Stranger Things, just so you guys know. I was going to say, I think this is the best television program I've seen in years. And the improvement over season 3 is phenomenal. I think in season 3, they lost their way. And I had said this before, when they chose to explore the idea of one of the mothers having an affair with one of the kids. And I was like, that's bullshit. That they shouldn't even be doing that. It has nothing to do with horror. Like it's not focused on the main story. And they, ironically, it felt derailed to me when they did that. I realized that they weren't really focusing on what they needed to, but this is a show that doesn't throw away their character. So we still see Billy. We still see a lot of characters pop up, just like in real life, which you would see them.
Yeah.
And I think what the Duffer Brothers have done, I think what they've done is that they've reinvented horror on another level. And what it is, while it's true that they were able to bring back that 80s horror that we all love and enjoy and remember, and without it feeling overly nostalgic, they did have Robert Englund in it, but it didn't feel, like he's walking around with his, with the razor hand or whatever that claw thing that he uses in his character. What it felt like was that it was horror for all ages. And I like to compare it to something like American Horror Story or even The Boys, which isn't meant for every audience. You can't
Mm,
sit your whole family down. I don't feel comfortable watching American Horror Story with my family.
mm,
It's not an appropriate audience for everyone, nor do I feel comfortable watching The Boys with every member of the family. But with American Horror Story, I can probably watch that with maybe a 10-year-old and ages 10 and up. They understand what's going on. They understand the relationships between the children and the parents and the adults. Um, and they are scared. Like, it's scary. This felt scary, and I have to say, it wasn't overly sexual. It wasn't what I would consider overly gory. There were a few moments of ouch and oh goodness, that looks very painful, but it was the idea of what they're up against. And these perfect practical effects that they've been doing mixed with CGI that you mentioned before, Russ, where it was such a perfect balance that what we're looking at, these special effects, you can tell where they spent the money on this. And the relationships between these kids is 100% natural. That's how people speak to one another. That's how they go ahead and have, responses. One example of that for me was when the police are giving this, sort of like an APB thing to everybody in the town hall. And one of the guys, Jason, comes in and says, "Hey, we got to do something," and
yeah.
it's like a vigilante thing. And the police were, while it's true, the police said, "Hey, Jason, you really need to stop." They also said, and we'll see you later, Dennis. We'll see you later. Take care, Dennis. It's such a pleasure seeing you, sir. Um, what I thought was very interesting is that at some point the police are like, "Oh my God, he's going to bring a whole bunch of people out." And one of the cops kind of jumps over and they're like, "We got to do something really quick. Don't go out and do that." Like the
Mm,
response was very natural. It wasn't, "Look, sir, you absolutely have to make sure that you don't do vigilante." No, that's not how they would react. They'd be very scared. The cops would be like, all the townspeople gathering their weapons. And we actually saw a scene in the show where they were all at that store picking up, weapons. This is not an anti-weapon thing or a pro-weapon thing. It's just the idea that the police could tell what was going to happen. And so it was refreshing just to see people behave the way they normally would behave
yeah.
versus, do not go out and be a vigilante. We do not condone, we haven't been seeing a real life reaction. That cop was scared. He jumped to the podium and grabbed the mic, and was kind of like, "We're not supposed to be doing this. You guys, don't obstruct justice." It was just really very interesting to see that. We saw a coupling, Russ, between the couples that was natural.
Hmm.
How many times have people told you, that she's a good girl? You better make sure she doesn't get away. Like, how often have people come up to you and tried to hook you up with somebody, and you're like, in your mind, you're like, "Well, I don't think it's going to work out because this person's with someone else or whatever." I
Mm,
loved that they did it. And of course they didn't hook up, just like what you said, Russ.
yeah.
The relationships didn't necessarily pan out the way people hoped they would. Um, Even now, we don't quite know about, only Elle and Mike are the only two people that we know for sure care about one another. But we don't even know whether their relationship's going to work out, technically speaking, because of after what they experience. They are going to be changed. They're no longer children anymore. Going through all of this, as you said, this is something that I think is very interesting, Russ. And we're going to talk about Eddie because there's a lot to say about Eddie. He's going to have his own discussion because this character for me was a breakout character of the show. But I did just want to talk about the idea of these kids who, after this season, after season 4, are not children anymore.
Mm,
Now they're going to be pretty much adults, young adults. And I think that in the prior seasons that we saw on Stranger Things, seasons 1 through 3, the children didn't quite understand what they were up against. And it was pretty clear that they didn't understand it when Mike says, one of the children says something like, "Well, this is the first time we haven't won." And I thought to myself, well, they never won before. I mean, they were kind of battling, but they haven't won anything. And they're finally now understanding what's going on, that this battle, that this thing that they're fighting is much more complex than what they thought. The parents kind of understand this is really serious and this is major. But,
mhm,
I really like that they chose to address the idea of the children coming to the realization of what it means to have to fight something this dangerous. Russ, what did you think about this whole notion of the children kind of having their eyes opened you know, at the end of this. And of course, you mentioned the coma. Someone was in a coma. Someone died.
Mm.
One of the children died this time. You know, Eddie's not that old. You know, he's a young man.
Yeah,
Um, what did you think about their notion of exploring this and the children coming to the realization, although they didn't verbally say it, but it's pretty apparent that from the looks on their faces and from the way that they're responding at the end of the show, that they're now grown up and are about to face this even greater foe perhaps in the next season. What did you think about that idea and that concept in the show?
I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, where they've sort of like acknowledged that the actors themselves are now too old to be playing young children, and that coming of age stuff that you're talking about really was encapsulated in the story of 11 and 1, and how we find out that all of those dream sequences were not what she thought that they were. So yeah, I think in writing terms they've acknowledged this, and in terms of the show, yeah, they have taken a step into a larger world. When Will turns around at the end and says, no, I can still feel him, he's still around. um yeah, I couldn't agree more. They have the show is acknowledged, and the kids themselves now have to acknowledge that this is some serious stuff that they're dealing with. When it comes to one or Vecna, or whichever one we want to call him, I thought that was brilliantly done. I liked it a lot because it's kind of like 11 11 is the cause of all of this inadvertently, and one himself is a product of Papa's experiments. Like that young guy could have grown up any number of ways. Hey, Bloodsport, guy
Hi,
with the best
Bloodsport
handle on the
one.
internet. He could have grown up any number of ways, but the environment that he was cooked up in sort of turned him that way. He could have been changed by his experience with Papa, but Papa really just sort of played into his already um, his inflated ego, if you like, because we have that whole flashback sequence where we find out what happened to the Robert Eglin character, and like one was behind it. And the fact, what I like about one slash Vecna is that while he's evil, his motivations are understandable for an evil guy. If you see what I mean, like he gets defeated, he gets put into this dimension, and he looks on humans, a bit like Magneto, I guess. He sort of looks on people who don't have these powers as kind of like what does he call them, like a cancer or a plague or something like that, and he wants to sort of purify the earth with his own vision of what it should be. So his motivation is really powerful, and he's a powerful bad guy. He's not easily defeated. He's thwarted perhaps in this one, but ultimately this is almost like the Empire Strikes Back of the Stranger Things story, in that yeah, the baddies were thwarted, but the goodies haven't won, and the goodies have paid a very high price for everything that's happened. I'm sure that Max will reappear in season 5, but I kind of hope that Eddie doesn't. Like this for me, going forward into season 5, part of what you're saying about them realizing that they've taken their first steps into a larger world, if you like, is the reality of death, and this is serious. If they bring him back, I think it'll be a cheap shot. And I wonder, actually, a thought occurs to me now: are did the Duffer Brothers know that Eddie was going to be such a breakout character? Did they have any inkling of how much this guy would be taken in by old metalheads like myself and and everyone else on the internet? I mean, I know that you were into the metal scene as well. So yeah, I wonder if they're kicking themselves. Maybe they should have killed off somebody else. I don't know, but I hope they don't bring him back for season 5. And what I
Well,
oh
oh,
okay, Bloodsport, you need to take off because it's heavy spoilers, man. Like we're giving it
yeah.
all away here.
This is totally heavy spoilers, blood sports. So we just want to give you the heads up, just to be aware that boy, is this one going to spoil everything that you know. And I'm just going to show my photo, my one of my photos from back in the day.
Oh, there you go. There's you. So this last week it was Russ in the 80s. Now it's you in the 90s. I can't get over it.
So that's me in all my glory. That one is a little bit later. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. That's right. And I did want to talk about, well, there's so much to talk about the series, Russ. And, to be honest with you, we could talk about this all day and maybe we will. But what I was going to say is Bloodsport 1, just so you know, heavy spoilers, guy. Heavy spoilers. He says, oh, peace. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know, guys, we're going to be talking about different themes that we find important as like from a writer's perspective, especially because as you know, Russ is a writer. And so thank you, Bloodsport One, for your kind words with my Megadeth shirt. And I was proud to wear that shirt and that hat. And you couldn't see it, but I also had a Megadeth pin on there. And thank you so much, Retro Nerd Girl. I think you and I park our shuttles in the same shuttle bay, Retro Nerd Girl. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure you could break out some photos too, my dear. Um, so I did want to say, when we're talking about the Eddie character, and I think that of course, for us, you saw yourself in this character. You saw so much of let's say, personal history
Mm,
in looking at just even the physical appearance of this individual. And the thing that stood out to me the most about him was just how kind he was. And I really enjoyed that so much because I think that at the time people stereotyped metalheads, if you looked that way, and they really did have this notion that this person was perhaps in wrongly stereotyped them as someone to be feared and all this sort of stuff. And it really just wasn't like that, Russ. This was people who were music lovers,
mm,
if we have to really describe them, one thing more than anything else. And of course they were very careful to show that Eddie had a musical background, and the show decided to use music as a way for everybody to kind of fight or use as a defense against this evil, which I really liked. Yes, they went to the gun store. Yes, they went to the Army Navy store. Yes, they did. But having music as this way to combat, music brings you joy. And
hmm
having music as a way to combat evil, I thought that that was very good, especially for a show which essentially was about young adults and children and things of that nature, just kind of getting down to, what is it about the being a young person that you enjoy the most. And music was one of those things that we just enjoyed so immensely, and it became part of our expression as individuals. And take care of Bloodsport One, and you enjoy your holiday weekend there, sir. And I think as a form of expression for us, for many of us, that's all we had was our music. You were lucky if you had a gaming system. If your parents went and spent a whole bunch of money and you could afford to have a gaming system, you were lucky. Not everybody had that. Not everybody had computers.
mm,
It was kind of like this leveling and even side kind of thing, if you will. If you could play music, you were very talented, but also the music that you had was an expression of what you believed in oftentimes, and what you were a fan of and what it meant to you. I think that's very important to show. And I think that the way that the Eddie character really was, he was a kid who was in high school for a little bit longer than
hmm
he should have been, which is okay. I've seen a lot of kids who were in school for a few extra years, and that's fine. They were safe there. They finished whatever they needed to. Maybe, hypothetically, he'll take a test and then go into the military if he wants to. I think that's what they do now. But I really liked the notion of him being this really positive person for these kids to look up to in the Hellfire Club. And it actually reverberated beyond the Hellfire Club, to the kids who become sort of like this hero, being a hero at the time. I think that was such a great message, and certainly something that the Duffer Brothers made a point of showing how they supported this gentleman because he was such a nice person. And those vibes came back to them. This was not an easy thing to get through, and he kept his resilience. They made a point of saying, he was scared. Of course he was scared. He had never seen anything like that before in the first episode. Most people would run. Nobody's going to stick around for that. It looks very scary, very dangerous. And he tried to help her. He was shaking her. He was like, Chrissy, are you okay? He did whatever he could do. There was nothing else he could do. And so that part where he kind of decides that he's going to sacrifice himself, for the greater good. I thought it was very interesting. He was always that way all along. It just so happened that the situation now he had the tools and knew what was going on. It's different when you have the information that you have to fight something. He felt the need to do this. And he felt, if I could do this, if I could help my friends who have helped me, they made sure I had a place to stay. They fed me. We played D&D, like we've been having all these great times all these years. I'm going to reciprocate the support. And I don't know if he thought he was going to die. I mean, I was hoping he wouldn't, but honestly, Russ, this character, ended up being, this kind of breakaway hero, if
Mm.
you will, that reverberates in the story. And he really just was a class act, Russ, from start to finish, even though he sold pot. So,
Well, I think what the Duffer Brothers have done so well, and even with season three, that they've done this very well, is they've absolutely nailed the zeitgeist of those times. And we've spoken about this before on the stream. I can remember when they tried to ban heavy metal and Dungeons and Dragons. I can remember there were programs about it, like, and we were all devil worshippers and all that kind of. And of course we weren't. We were just nerds playing Dungeons and Dragons with long hair, and we liked heavy metal. But that whole hysteria around it was really, really. They really encapsulated it well. They encapsulate the 80s in such a visceral way. And I think that's why it appeals to sort of young and old, if you like, because it will appeal to the younger generation because it's young adults doing their thing, but for older people, um, you can remember what it was like, and they have encapsulated that really, really well. What I do like, as I think about it, this Dungeons and Dragons motif that has been carried through right from the first season, the fact that they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but they're also involved in a real life game of Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's they have this party, and Eleven's the magic user, and Will's the thief, and Mike's the paladin, and all that kind of thing, and they have them acting out these roles. But as you were talking about earlier on, they shit's got real. They had now officially lost one of their party. Um, and yeah, to call back to that scene in the town hall when everybody goes off, to hunt him down. Don't forget that the only people that know what Eddie did is the party, and now Mr. Munson. The rest of the town still, like there's it's a really heartbreaking picture of like his uncle goes there every day and puts a picture of him up saying that he's missing, and somebody sort of scrawled a pentagram on the picture. So as far as everybody else is concerned, Eddie still is this, murderer or this cult leader or something like that. And of course he wasn't. He was just a normal kid that liked to drink and liked to smoke and liked his heavy metal. As a character, um, it was really authentically done. I think that was the point. You have to suspend your disbelief. Obviously, there's subdimensional creatures coming to invade us, and all of that stuff. But he was really fully fleshed out, fully drawn, and it was tragic that he died. But I think fitting. I really do. I kind of I look back on it now and I say, oh shit, man, because it would have been great to have him in in season five. Um, put it this way, I'd rather Argyle had bit the dust than Eddie. But I think if there was any sort of superfluous characters, that Argyle sort of felt like a little bit of a throwaway character. Um, but no, Eddie was great. Obviously, as a metalhead, I think it was so cool to see that. And of course, the one thing that we haven't spoken about in all of this is the entire Russian subplot, which I thought again was what this season did was pay off a lot of stuff. Oh God, what's the Murray? Like Murray being able to speak Russian and all that, and he's a bit crazy and all that kind of thing. And the way now that it pays off into something really, really tangible and really, really useful over and above what happened in season three. And the fact that there's this like literally again another D&D thing, like that whole Russian thing. I read a review. Oh, hey Lorraine, yeah.
Good morning,
Um,
Lorena. How are you? Lorena says, hi, everyone. Hope you are having a fantastic morning. And she says, can't stay but dropping a like. Thank you so much, Lorena. Guys, check out Lorena Creole's channel on YouTube and on Twitch. It's such a pleasure, Lorena. I hope you're having a wonderful morning as well.
yeah. Um, Yeah, so I read a review of this, and it said that the whole Russia thing just felt tacked on, and I just thought, no, you're kind of missing the theme of this. This is a D&D game, and this is a side quest. This is another party doing a side quest off in Russia, and it was equally important. And I thought all of those characters that they had, the Yuri and the prison guard, they were well done. They were really well drawn. Like even the sort of smuggler, and then you find out, well, you fought in this battle. I know about you and all the rest of it. And he has this sort of change of heart, and you can see, when the prison guard says to him, before the cards and the drink and the women, you used to be something special, and now what are you? We know I know that you're stalling and all that, and you can see like the change and the shame in the guy's face when he realizes, is this what I am? And he too has a chance to redeem himself and do something great. And I thought, yeah, of course, when Hopper picks up the Atlantean sword from Conan, I thought that was a great little moment there that not many people picked up on. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the Atlantean sword. I do remember, um, pushing the screen back a little bit, thinking, "Is that the Atlantean sword?" I think it is. Um, and that
Mhm.
whole sequence was thrilling, and it was that moment when, when Hopper sees Joyce again for the first time, and yeah, it was just so good, and none of it
It
none
was
of it
very
felt.
romantic.
It was. And here's the thing, like, Murray's sort of played for laughs in a way, and he's talking about, like his fingers are like arrows and his arms are like steel, but he can actually do karate, which I thought was a really funny
Yes.
point. Like he actually he took him
Yes.
out with his karate, and I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah, yeah.
instead of having him as like completely useless, and just only there to speak Russian. No, he became a valuable member of that party and contributed to the mission. And in fact, he's the one that saves them all in the end. So even Murray gets his moment to shine. And yeah, Gary, I totally did, and I'm not ashamed of it at all.
I agree 100%. Let me just grab your photo here. I didn't have it on the share feature, but I have it here.
There we go. Yes, that's my
That's right.
Saxon t-shirt. Not a Megadeth one. That's my mate Jamie. He was much more into thrash. I was more into metal. Priest and Saxon and stuff like that. But
I love
yes.
it. I just love it. Back in the day, that hair, and it meant so much, so much of this
Mm,
at the time. And I did want to say, in regards to what you're saying, I think it's very interesting, Russ, when we talk about this Russian point of view. And, in the 80s, we didn't have the best relationship or depiction of that country in
hmm
films. Usually they were on the other side. And, and perhaps it's not so hard to imagine now, but, having a different relationship with that country, was kind of refreshing. And for them not to always be, the person who where is the on the other side, or the enemy, so to speak. And Murray, I think Murray is like a triple black belt, don't you, Russ?
Yeah, it was
He's
it was it was cool. It was cool when he actually did it, and I thought that they're gonna see. This is what they didn't do in this season. There were funny moments, but the characters were treated with respect, and they were not played for laughs. We know Murray is a bit strange and a bit of a knob, if you like, but no, he does do it, and they didn't play it for laughs where the guy fell over and banged his head. No, Murray took him out, and in that way, they just had a respect for all of their characters, which I think was lacking in the last season. When they had Steve dressed up in the silly outfit for the whole, for pretty much the whole thing, and yet they erred too much towards comedy. Whereas in this one, there were comedic moments, and
Mhm.
Murray's a funny character, but again, he was treated with respect. They all were treated with the respect, and that's why when we lost Eddie, and then when we lose Max, you feel the loss. You feel the loss, and yeah, for me, the most heartbreaking moment is when is when Will is telling Mike how much, the love between him and Eleven, but he's really talking about his love for Mike. I just thought that was just so well performed, so well written. It was. I think that's probably the best scene for me. That's and as much as I love the Eddie sequence, of course, and Master of Puppets and all that, and it was really really metal, and his death scene was touching as well. But I think for me that Will scene was the most touching part of the entire show. It really
Well,
was great.
the show certainly did embrace masculinity and a lot of what Lorraine and I would call toxic male traits, which is being a protector, you know, being a hero, taking shots for other people, sacrifice. I think a lot of those themes we saw in the story, and I think that those are just the realities of, for me, and I'm sure for perhaps Lorena as well, how we view men. Because
Mhm.
men are always doing things behind the scenes that we don't know about, like in Stranger Things, and we benefit from it. We benefit from these things that are done, and a lot of times we don't even know what's happened, the sacrifices that were made, or what they've done. And I think that this show definitely demonstrated that. uh Hopper's scene when he's fighting against the creature, he now had the experience of so many years of fighting, or let's say maybe it's not so many years, but yeah, maybe it is so many years. He's had the experience of what these creatures are like now, and
Mm.
I think that that gave him an advantage to pick up that sword, and he knows what he's doing at this point, and he's willing to go down for this. Whereas some of the other men who were kind of forced into this situation, they were forced into, he was forced to, but they were forced into and didn't know what they were up against.
Yeah.
But Hopper knew, so it makes a big difference having that knowledge, um, to go ahead and have a kind of like defend yourself. Having the knowledge, knowing what you're up against to defend yourself, he had a little bit more confidence. He picked up the sword, and you could hear the music, whatever kind of music it would have been.
Mm.
You just knew. It was like all of a sudden he wasn't wearing a prison outfit anymore. He might as well have been like a knight, as you said, Russ. The entire feeling changed after he picked up the sword. It was
Mm.
absolutely beautiful. It was a magical moment, that everybody fantasizes about, but he had it in reality.
Yeah.
And like when he starts to chop off the limbs of the creature, I'm sure none of those guys were confident enough to do that because they had never seen this before. And so having that knowledge, being able to defend yourself in this fight, making it, not that it could be completely fair, but a little bit more of an advantage over this, made a big difference for Hopper. And I was confident for him. I'm like, he picked up that sword and he went in and he knows what he's doing. He stood his ground. And I really liked seeing that kind of a challenge. Once again, very male associated, as the strong male, the defender, the protector. That absolutely gets like my hormones going. Yes, 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 yes.
Well, you
Thank God
see,
he's here.
he
Thank God
he
he's doing that.
he did have a chance, and this is the little bits that they throw in, because we know that nobody can stand up to one of no single person can stand up to one of those at its full strength. But we know that it was badly damaged by the fire. That Murray, do you know what I mean? We knew this, so it
Yes.
wasn't as strong as it previously had been. It was weakened by the flames. It was injured. It was still dangerous, but not. It wasn't as suddenly as though Hopper is now actually Conan the Barbarian and can take these things out. No, it was weak, and he was able to do it. And yeah, it was a I think the Murray moment when he actually tortures him is like a real punch the air moment. And
It
again, I
was
go
amazing.
again, I go back to the fact that pretty much everybody had an arc in this. Nobody was really uh, neglected at all, especially actually the Dustin character, who's always he's kind of coming into his own a little bit now, and he's always been the sort of the hi- his loss of Eddie really hit home. Like this is like his best mate. These two really really bonded, um, and in a way, Eddie making him part of the Hellfire Club sort of brought Justin out of himself and made Justin more self-assured and more self-confident. And now it's almost like the mentor dying on page 75. Like the guy that's shown Dustin the way has now literally and figuratively shown in the way. Like sometimes you have to make a sacrifice to for others, and Eddie actually does that. And Eddie, including surprising himself. What's Mikey saying here?
Mikey says, I thought it was cool that Jonathan made himself available to Will, because Jonathan understands what his brother is going through without saying it, giving Will space and support. And that is so important, Mikey Lito, for them not to over explain at a critical moment when you would not hear him saying a bunch of googly gosh kind of words to his brother. He would just say, I'm here for you, bro.
Mm,
And that would be it. There wouldn't be more explaining or mansplaining or, explaining to the crowd. It was an intimate moment between two brothers who support one another. And he needed to hear that, Mikey Leader, right? He
yeah.
needed to hear that, Russ. He needed to know his brother was by his side at a moment when he was hurting.
Mm,
It was amazing. And I think, if anything, Jonathan himself, although he's kind of become a stoner, right?
yeah.
Because, and I have actually said that the reason why he has become a stoner is because of all the shit that he's had to deal with over the past few years. Like, this has been a lot to bring a person down on. And, there isn't a whole bunch of people that he can talk to about it. So, he almost needed Argyle. I think the guy's name is Argyle,
Yeah.
to kind of release a lot of that tension, because this has not been easy for Jonathan. And he's kind of the father figure of the family. Once Hopper left, so to speak, or
Hmm.
once some of the other men who passed away from the mother's life, he's been the protector there. So he has all this on his shoulders now. And so that hasn't necessarily been easy for him. So, you
He was an
almost,
outcast as well, wasn't he? You forget, because it was so many years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, when it first started. Steve was beating him up and bullying him because he was like the weird buyer's kid, right? He was the weird one, and he can sort of see that, his brother, and I don't know if he knows. I mean, look, it's implied that Will is homosexual. I don't know if he knows that or if he feels that, but he certainly can feel, and you get it in that moment where it's not, hey, bro, I can tell that you are now at the same age I was all those years ago, and you too are an outsider. And it just wasn't that. It didn't mansplain it, as you said. He just, look, dude, I'm here for you, because you can see in his eyes he gets it. He was once where he was, perhaps in a different way, but they're very much outsiders, very much looked upon as weirdos and misfits, which again gets back to this theme of the Dungeons and Dragons and the heavy metals. We were outsiders, and that's really kind of portrayed well with the view of the jocks, um, and the basketball team. And oh god, what's the guy's name? The one with the little sister. Yes,
Erica.
yeah, Erica's the sister, and the brother is
Oh, Lucas.
Lucas. Thank you so much. It was yeah. So Lucas is desperate to sort of get out of his nerdy clique and be cool, and have a girlfriend and be popular, and he says that. Oh my god. And and how brutal was that fight with Lucas and the jock? That was so well done. It was, like the karate fight was well done, but this was brutal. And the stakes of that fight, when he steps on the Walkman and breaks it, and then it just, oh man, the stakes of that fight, the choreography of that fight, it was the antithesis of what Murray was doing in a way. This is exactly how you would see two teenage boys like going at it. They were going at it big time, and he picks up the thing and he smacks it on his head. It was so well done. And just to deviate slightly, because while I'm on a roll here,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, maybe I've had too much coffee.
No, it's good.
Um,
It's all good.
when they were saying before that the Russian section was tacked on, I didn't think so. The editing of this show was masterfully done, because they reached climax all at the same time, and they cut you from segment to segment to segment, or party to party to party, if you like, brilliantly. The suspense was never lost. It was kept up. The height was kept up the entire time. It was a masterclass in how to handle it. Compare compare that to the climactic fight of Obi-Wan. See how
Yeah.
they tried to cut between the two things. That's how you don't do it, and this is how you do no how you do it. I just thought, yeah, it was brilliant. um I don't know, I can't come out with enough superlatives, Arum. I was so impressed by the show,
Yes.
the writing, Yeah, if anyone was superfluous, I guess it was kind of Argyle. But Argyle kind of, he needed to be there for the plot, and I kind of liked. It was clever how they needed salt water, and the only person that could get them it was Argyle. And I thought that scene in the shot when, he goes, "Hey, my dude," and "Oh, my dude," and all that, and they're kind of talking in this stoner surfer, LA 80s way, could have been really really naff. Um, and wasn't. It was just played perfectly. And then again, the payoff of that, uber strong weed that Argyle has. And Jonathan Turner goes, "No, we're not expecting you to do it for free." And he pulls out the joint, and then he
Mhm.
quotes Argyle, "This will make you float away and make you forget all your troubles," or whatever it is. Argyle says to him, and like the dude's like, "Ooh," and
But
you
you
see him
know,
walking off, pleased as punch with it at the end, and then they go off and do their mission.
I really like the Argyle character, and I'll get to. I'm certainly going to say something about him because I just love the way that they treated the male characters in the show. And Mike Alito says family members, no, the smart ones give their siblings space, like Jonathan and my mom. And thank you for sharing that, Mike
Thank you for
Alito.
sharing that, Mikey. Yeah, I have no experience of that, but if you're saying it, you're calling it, then I'm coming down on your side, mate.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say in regards to the Argyle character is that they needed an extra character in the story. And, it couldn't be somebody who wasn't mellow, because this mellowness allows him to accept what's going on without saying, "Oh my God, you guys are crazy." Because that's what someone would have said in the
Mm,
1980s.
mm,
You guys are nuts. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm out of here. That's what would have happened. But
mm.
somebody like Argyle, he goes with the flow.
Yeah,
And, he understands that things happen, dude. Like
yeah,
it's like
totally
that.
rad.
Yeah, totally rad. And he kind of had this spiritualness about him
Mm,
that kind of took a bright side with all of the dark things that we were seeing. He was like, "It's going to be okay. Yeah, it's all good." There was this positiveness that came through, and you needed that balance of someone else who could kind of maybe not be so ingrained in this, but could also provide that form of escapism. And it is realistic for me. Oh, and Mike Alito says that he provided comic relief but had skills, again, pizza making. He definitely could make a mean pizza. And I did also want to say, so we had Hopper, who once again kind of also was a badass in this, getting his,
mm.
like, he's like having to get beat up. And I mean, he's as tough as nails, went through all this craziness. Murray himself proved himself. And Russ, I knew that they had that flamethrower. I have never used a flamethrower. I'm sure there have been other people out there who have used flamethrowers, but I knew they had it. But I don't know why I was so surprised when he had that flamethrower, and you were like, yes,
Mm.
like, as he's like burning up those the creatures. But it's also kind of funny. It was a group effort to kill them. And certainly the mother was, she had her part in it. But let's just be honest, if those men were not there, this stuff, like, they wouldn't have been able to kill the creatures. And I just think that that level of realism in this, while it's true we do see that the women do have a certain role in this, there is a huge difference between the men and women. Let's just be honest about it. And I love that they did that in this story. We didn't see the women doing anything that was highly unrealistic for that time period, or even for now. It would have been ridiculous to see any of the women trying to, to pick up a sword and try and fight this creature. Like, that would have been absolutely preposterous. You and I both know that that was never going to happen, nor should it ever happen. And I
Mm.
don't think we'll see stuff like that in Stranger Things. I think we're going to continue to see the men pick up a lot of the heavy lifting. Is that what you would call it? A lot
I
of the
reckon.
heavy lifting parts of it, where they are taking that responsibility on their shoulders, and it's a lot to bear. And they're doing it with grace. They're doing it with grace, Russ, because it's not easy, what this burden that they've taken on themselves to do. And as I said, we're benefiting from this. This is the type of story that I like to see. My father would do that, my brother would do that. I have a feeling you would do it, Russ. Let's just go ahead and represent men the way that they are, being protectors and defenders. And I really love seeing that in a story like this. They're not, Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger looking. They are, everyday ordinary men in our lives who are doing this because they want to make sure the people they care about are protected. It feels so good to see this sort of stuff over and over again in Stranger Things because we know that this is what would happen
Mm,
going forward. And the other thing I was going to say is, and you did allude to the fight between Lucas and Jason, and I think that they made Jason the best that they could. Remember, and you and I both agree that this is 1980,
hmm
86,
hmm
or 85, or
So
around
I
there.
think it's a class of '86. I think I seem to remember written on the wall.
And this is a different mindset that anybody can even imagine. I remember the 80s, pretty much the media was king, and if you put in the media that someone was a devil worshiper, everybody believed it you
Yes,
know
you're spot on. You are 100% right, Aram. That's why this character is sort of portrayed as he's not portrayed as a villain. He's just portrayed as someone as to how a good Christian country boy would react. In
Yes.
fact, you were talking about men protecting and all that sort of thing. He's also protecting. He's also going on this mission to root out the evil in his community as he sees it. Now, we might be party to the fact that Eddie isn't a devil worshipper, but the whole of Hawkins doesn't know that and still doesn't know that. He's never redeemed in this show. They still think he's a devil worshipping cult leader, even though the only person that knows of the party and the uncle, as I said. So he was doing the right thing. And that's one of the great things about this show is that it knows how to tell a classic story. And when you boil all this stuff about demogorgons and Vecna away, it literally is about people finding themselves in a situation, and unlike Obi-Wan, okay, if we can no,
I
if we're
was
going to,
I can't even go there with it, but go ahead, Russell.
they're not passive. They take action. They make a plan. You know,
Yes.
Joyce makes a plan to go and save Hopper. Hopper makes a plan to go and escape. Mike makes a plan to go and find 11. You know, Steve makes a plan to go and kill Vecna. They have a plan, and they are active characters trying to achieve a goal, and the mountain keeps getting higher and higher, and setback after setback after setback after setback, and they still keep moving forward, as Rocky would say. It's brilliant.
Hmm.
What's Mikey
And
saying here? Oh,
smart
sorry, you
creators plant facts, make you forget them, and pull out of an opportune moment. Absolutely.
like the
And
flamethrower was mentioned. The flamethrower was
yes,
mentioned, and it
yeah.
pays off later. Murray's karate is mentioned, and it pays off later.
And
Everything pays off.
I also do want to mention something that I think is also important is that some of these weapons are very heavy, and I know that that sounds like I'm being very whiny and complaining, but some of these weapons are very heavy. I have a feeling that a flamethrower pack would be very heavy. This is just my interpretation of, gee, yeah, let's go grab a flamethrower. Now we saw in Alien, and that's a science fiction that's done in the future. And maybe that pack is a lot lighter. What she picked up was a lot lighter version, but the flamethrowers of the 1980s, I'm sure that thing weighed about 40 pounds. You had to carry fuel in it, right, Russ? You're carrying like almost a tank of gas, and the machine itself, and it's incredibly dangerous to operate. So, I did just want to mention that, it's not like an Alien where she has a flamethrower, or Aliens, or I can't remember which one it is, where she's got
Both.
a flamethrower and she's able to kind of just, put it on her shoulder. This is not the same type of version of a flamethrower
No,
that
it's got a
that I'm
huge
referring
backpack.
to.
You can see he's got the thing on the back with all of the fuel in it. Fuel in it. It's a Cold War era flamethrower. It is a big
Yeah.
clunky thing. In Alien, you can in the first Alien you can see it's got a canister. It's got like a canister underneath. It's a hand portable homemade weapon. And Aliens was a military grade one, and obviously it was a bit more high tech than what we had. Uh, like the smart gun, we don't have anything like that, and again, we didn't have any flamethrowers like that. But this, no, you're absolutely right. Joyce would not have been able to pick that up. She would not have been
No.
able to. Well, she could have done, but she would not have been able to wield it as effectively as a guy, because
Hmm.
Winona Ryder's, she's a wee thing, and this is a huge, massive flamethrower. So yeah.
Yes. And so what I'm really alluding to is the idea of, being realistic in what we can see characters do. This is the first time I've ever seen a character make a shield with nails in it. I've never seen anyone do it before.
Hmm.
And, it felt very real. Like, they had the garbage cans. You remember those metal garbage cans? I'm sure
Yeah.
people still have them now. And he's driving nails through it. And I probably I wouldn't have been able to do it because all my nails would have gone crooked, like I wouldn't be able to pound it through right on the head. But I think that even going further, like Steve, finding himself being protective towards the ladies.
Hmm.
And, I think the roles that they assigned everybody in the story did make sense. And I'm going to say one final thing about Jason was that was not unusual in the 1980s for the jocks to kind of go around, and I'm not vilifying them, but they kind of, ruled. They had their own ruling party, so to speak.
Hmm.
They were a powerful bunch of young men, these guys who had Letterman jackets, and they were respected. And in some places, every Friday night or Saturday night, the whole town goes out to see their games, whether it's football or baseball or basketball or whatever they were playing. Hockey, this was a big deal. And I like to think it still is in some places, college football in the US especially. But this was kind of, he had a lot of clout, and we saw that in the beginning of the series. His desire to kind of straighten things out and find out what's going on is what anyone would have done at that time. Any young man would have done that. And I just love how when they're in the lunchroom in the beginning, and they establish the fact that all these groups kind of get along. They are surviving. Yes, there is bullying. Yes, there is kind of, snarky remarks towards one another, but they are surviving together in the same town. And he even gives them credit. He even gives Hopper credit for protecting the town, which is something that I thought was very interesting. And he spoke very well. He spoke very well for a young, high school guy. He's probably a junior or a senior, captain of the basketball team. He's probably captain of the football team. Only
Yeah.
God knows how many times this guy is lettered, probably more than once. But I really liked that he, when Eddie is talking in the lunchroom, and Eddie's like, guys who throw things into hoops. And he's
Yeah.
like, what do you want, freak? It's
Yeah.
like, I just thought it was really great that they could kind of have words and then just go on with their day. And
Yeah.
it
It
showed
wasn't
that.
overtly, it wasn't like Eddie was getting beaten up and bullied by these guys. They just existed in the same space and clearly had different interests, but it's not like there was any venom or real hatred in there. It was just, he's a freak, he's into heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. It's only when that started to amp up, it's almost like Jason was a representation of what the media was telling us. Yeah, he brought hook, line, and sinker into the authoritarian or the establishment view of these people and these kids and these freaks and these weirdos, and did the right thing. He did the right thing as far as he was concerned, and that's the thing. And I circle back around to Vecna. The motivations of all these characters are really, really strong. Even the baddies, even Papa is trying to do the right thing. It's about the Soviets. He keeps saying it's about the Soviets. He's trying to defend America. And he's got these psychic children, and he's trying to experiment on, to further American aims, protect the country, and all the rest of it. And that bit when he's finally dispatched, and 11 doesn't forgive him, but you can see in his dying moments he said, I did it all for you. Like, is he an evil character, do you think, Aram? Do you think he's evil or misguided? Or do you just think, like so many other characters in Stranger Things, he's just a guy doing the best he can with the position that he's got?
Well, what I was going to say is that we have a lot of unreliable characters and unreliable witnesses in this story, and we'll never quite understand where Papa was, what his point of view or where he came from. But for the time, for the 1980s, people didn't want to stand out or go against the grain. And
Hmm.
if he was asked by the government, let's say this is government run operation, it's not a private corporation or anything. It's definitely some sort of military run operation, although they're not necessarily focusing on that it's straight up, United States military. I get the impression that this was some kind of military operation. And when he found one, um, they had to control one somehow. And if they didn't control one, one would have gone ahead and kept killing people. This is what one had been doing, and one it confesses to this.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to be, I didn't want to conform and be like everybody else. I had, you know, of course, your next step shouldn't be, I want to kill people. You know,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be your next step. It could have been, I just decided to go out on the road and to right the wrongs, or be a superhero or do something else. But that's not what one or Henry decided to do.
Hmm.
He decided to explore sort of the dark arts and, you know, kind of cause all sorts of havoc, starting with his own family, because he
Yeah.
felt that his father and mother, you see, this is very interesting. As an unreliable witness as a child, he could go ahead and sense what his father had experienced in the war and judge him, unjustifiably judge him
Yep.
for a mistake that was made during the war. That's at least from what I'm gathering, because he felt that, well, my father thought he was so smart. I knew everything about him. Like, you don't know everything about this man. You were just a child. You can't possibly have known what your father went through in World War II. Like, it's unfair to even go there with this. And of course, we learned from Robert England's experience what he saw and how scared he was for his children, only to find out that it was one of his children who was the instigator of all this. Quite remarkable. But as from Henry's point of view, it's something to think about, because he keeps seeing these traumatic events in characters, and he's using that as a vehicle to take action. But he doesn't truly, he's judging that person by those one incidents oftentimes.
It's like the
um
Northman, isn't it? It's the chart. It's the unreliable witness, because he might be able to see all of the things that his father saw and pluck these things out of his mind, and perhaps even feel the emotions that his father was feeling. But he doesn't have the emotional maturity as a child to understand that, and this changes him, and his experiences with Papa change him. um and turn him into what he was. And as I said earlier on, I really like the idea that, by and large, 11 and Papa sort of create Vecna in a way. He had to be stopped. He was going crazy. He was killing everybody in the place, and all the rest of it. But it's such a neat twist that her pushing him through opens the barrier and lets him into this hellscape where he, with his powers, can become master of all he surveys. Yeah, top draw.
well, I want to go a little bit further to say that he'd already been doing that. And
Extrapolate. Sorry.
I believe that I believe that one had already gone to that realm.
Oh.
And the reason why I believe it is because he had been doing these heinous crimes, and he was searching and looking for a place to exist where, he could kind of, I guess, be in this area of darkness and have that pain with him. He wanted that, and he didn't want to be alone. And as soon as he met 11, she's so naive. She's a child. She's so naive. And he knew 11 wanted to get out of the
Mm.
area, that he tricked her. We knew this. But I think that while she kind of banished him away and he ended up kind of re imaging himself in the upside down, I have a feeling that that was, perhaps just a realm that he had already explored, because the level of evil that he was experiencing, in my opinion, he would have ended up there anyway, or perhaps it manifested from that. And
That's what
that's
I
what they,
think. Now you're talking
because
about it.
remember, they said that the gate probably had been open for thousands or hundreds of years, or whatever. I have a feeling that that influence somehow had gotten to this poor kid, and they saw that the influence was happening to him. So 11 doesn't have the full story, and neither do we necessarily.
Mm.
We know that these organizations have been fooling around with it for more than 11 years.
Yeah.
They've been fooling around with the gate for more than 11 years, Russ. We know that. So, clearly they must have been there before. At least this is what I'm guessing. I don't know.
Well, I
Um,
mean, these black projects are a fact, because we know that the undisclosed projects are a thing, because after 50 years or so, you find out that these projects were going on. We do know that ESP experiments were going on. We this is now fact. We didn't know it in the 1980s. We suspected it, remote viewing and all of this kind of thing. So back to your point about that operation, that is definitely a black undisclosed project, and the colonel that's going after them is part of the normal government. He's been given a mission to do, and he's going to track them down. But they're a subset of the government that are not beholden to the president, if you like. It's a black undisclosed project, and I think that's what was going on there. And you make a good point, and I wonder, was this other dimension having an influence on Henry, or is it that if Henry had been like a nice kid, would he have ended up in an entirely different dimension? Would have he ended up in a heavenscape, and it would have been entirely different? He would have ended up in some sort of paradise realm. So I don't know who's influencing who, but it's a really really deep concept, and they kind of, and they don't give you the answer, and that's why we're having this discussion. What is it? Did the dimension influence him, or did he create the dimension? We saw when he goes in there that there are demogorgons there already, so perhaps he's not created it, but certainly he's attuned to it. He's attuned to that way from his experiences, from siphoning the memories of Second World War or whatever it was, or perhaps just because he's a dark person with dark intent. But I go back to his motivations again. His motivations to be evil. He sees humanity as a thing that should be wiped out in the same way that Magneto does. As I said before, he's doing a good thing as far as he's concerned. Um, and actually, when you play that out a little bit further, he's actually using that same thing that he himself had. He's using the pain of others, the pain of young adolescents, to create gateways. That's why everybody he attacks and kills has been seeing the school counselor. They have something terrible that's happened to them. In Max's case, it's the loss of her brother, but it's not really so much that Billy died. It's the fact that she kind of wanted him to die and she hated him. And even though she has this like massive speech on the grave and she asks for his forgiveness, then she says later on, but he just made my life a living hell. He was a horrible, horrible guy, and that's her pain, and that's what Vecna is using to create the gateways. God, dear, some heavy stuff in there, RM.
Well, it's a lot of heavy stuff, and I think that, as I said, and I'm not going to talk more about the masculinity part. Because as you have already said, that I just love what they did with, rejecting modernity and embracing the masculinity.
Did
You
you think
talked
Hopper
about,
was hot with his weight loss? Now there's a question, because you got your topless scene with Hopper.
yeah,
What
he
did you
does look a
think?
lot. He looks hot. Yeah, he looks
Yeah.
hot. Hopper looks pretty good. I also thought the Russian guard that he was the one he collaborated with in the prison also
Mm,
was hot looking. So between the two of them, they looked really cool. I was like, this is turning into like, they were doing this mission, and they didn't know they would return, and but they were going to do it. I don't even know what it would be called, but that fight in that was a lot of fun. And I think if this was a video game, if Stranger Things was a video game, they would sell 1 million of these, because I want to go fight this creature. I
mm.
want to be the person, like playing this game. This is something that if they had made, and perhaps the Duffer Brothers don't want to go down that road, but it would have made, so much money having a 40-hour video game where you get to relive the experience of the season.
Mm.
I think that would have been one of the coolest things ever. But it's okay, it doesn't have to be that way. And Rogue Thinker is with us this morning.
Hey,
Hello,
Rogue.
Rogue Thinker.
Word of
Um,
word of warning. Massive spoilers on this stream for
Massive
we,
spoilers.
we've we've spoiled the entire thing. So if you haven't seen it, um, don't listen, and don't watch until you have. Don't watch the rerun or whatever until you've actually seen it, because yeah, we've wrecked the whole thing. So just to pause to give Rogue a chance to make his decision. What I loved about the characters in that Russian segment was they were all essentially selfish people doing selfish things for their own selfish gain. It's the Russian guard and Yuri, start off entirely reprehensible. It's not like the prison guard is he's helping Hopper because of altruistic reasons. He's
No,
going to get something out of it, and then you get the turn. You get the arc, the change, where he realizes that now, okay, he's in a shit situation, he's been discovered, and all the rest of it. But even over and above that, he realizes that this is bigger than him, and that's when he has that speech to Yuri. You don't understand. You're being, you were once a hero. You This is bigger than us. What is it? He said, "What do you think they'll do? And what do you think these creatures will do when they finish with the Americans? Then they're coming for us. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than Russia. It's bigger than America. This is
we
something
have
that
to go back.
we have to do it." Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that that's and Tom Jr. Jackson said Stranger Things is one of the smartest and best shows out there. And I agree, Tom. Something that I love once again is that the men are kind of, they knew that they had to do that. I can't remember whether Marcy had said she had to go back. I'm sure she was like, "We have to go back," like,
Mm.
But I think that the men did take charge there, and we kind of needed that. And I would have been terrified doing something like that, but he was like, "Okay, you go into the control room and lock the door."
Yeah,
That by a certain point, the creature was so infuriated, he was ripping off iron doors and stuff, and they had some kind of electronic device that kept them in check and at bay, which means that they had the means to possibly kill these creatures. Seeing the creature on the experimental table with his chest open, it did disturb me, Russ. And we almost got a sense that these creatures, almost we knew that they were being experimented on,
mm,
probably for purposes for as a weapon,
yeah.
which also was very disturbing. And they didn't necessarily go too far into it, but you could see it. With that poor creature on the table screaming, I can't believe how that affected me for a creature that is, evil and we're not supposed to like. So that was kind of interesting.
Even affects Hopper. He put, you could have left it there, but he put, is he killing it because it's a Demogorgon, or is he putting it out of its misery? And I kind of like to think, knowing what I do of the Hopper character, it's a little bit of both. Like, it has to be done, but there's no cruelty in what he does. He just shoots it once, straight in the head, and puts it out of its misery. And that brings me back to another point. Remember, I was talking about, Quarter and Search by Two's Hicks take the upper level. These guys are clearly massive Aliens fans, because the Demogorgons are like xenomorphs, right? And the whole idea that they've been experimented on for bioweapons is lifted straight from Aliens and put into this, I guess, historical context now, right? Because it's 40 years ago now. Um, I love that they've done that. I love that. I think I think I said this last week when we were talking about Star Wars and Marvel and things like that. What you need in the writers' room is a fan, a nerd that knows this stuff, that knows the lore. And I think what you've got with the Duffer Brothers, I bet they were into heavy metal. I bet they played Dungeons and Dragons. I know that they love aliens, and it's almost like this is their all of their dreams have come true. They've landed this contract to write a show that is basically about their Dungeons and Dragons party doing all these cool things, and they're going to throw in some sci-fi elements, and they're going to throw in some Dungeons and Dragons in there, and they're going to make this show a D&D party with a sci-fi mix. All of their dreams have come true, and they are the nerds in the writers' room. Yeah, they know this stuff. They love this stuff. They care for this stuff. At no point, talking about the heavy metal character, Eddie. At no point has he played for laughs, like, because there were kids like that. There were, and oh man, it's so sweet. What's Mikey saying here?
All
Oh,
things as things stand now, are you ready to let these characters go after season 5, or would you like to follow them into their future? I'm ready to let them go after season 5, Mikey Leader. What about you, Russ?
100%, 100%. I think, I hope and I pray, knowing the Duffer Brothers as I do, that that they're smart enough to say this is the end. I rather think I rather think that 1 and 11 will end up not making it through. I think that they'll cancel each other out, and I think that will be the end of it, and the gate will be closed, and there's no way of opening it, because now the Area 51 thing has gone. Um, they might have a little dark, teaser at the end with somebody opening it up in 1997 or something like that. Maybe that will happen, but I think if it was me, I had a plan, I would be saying 1-11 because of the numbers, and 001 and 100 and all that sort of thing. That they're the two counterpoints, the good and the evil, and they have to fight, and they have to basically die for the show to end. And yeah, I do. I would like it. I'd like it to end in the same way Battlestar Galactica, which is one of the greats of the past 20 years, because it was over 20 years ago now. Can you believe? It ended. It had a beginning, middle, and end, and they had a plan, like the Cylons, and they finished it and left us potentially wanting more of it. And we did get more of it, and it never lived up to the expectations. We had Blood and Chrome, and we had Caprica, which I never actually saw, but apparently that wasn't very good. So no, Mikey, I really think they must finish it after season 5, because there's also the the credibility side of it, like how many bad things can keep happening in Hawkins to these same people that the
Oh,
government now
yes.
knows about. You know, the
Yeah.
actual government knows about them now. They're
Well,
a known
Russ,
quality.
I have to ask you this question.
Mm,
And first of all, I'm so glad that they didn't Hawkins couldn't look the same. They couldn't go on with, all these terrible things have happened, but the town pretty much looks the same.
mm,
After everything that's happened, I'm so glad that they made the town look physically different. And at the end of the episode, when they're all kind of like outside and looking and seeing what's happened to the town, it's devastating. It's like a natural disaster. And they're like, oh, an earthquake has happened. But I like that they went ahead and the whole town is foobar. Nothing
yeah.
looks right. The ground is splitting up and the creature Vecna is like, this is just the beginning and all that
Mm,
stuff. I love that they creeped us out and didn't give us, sort of a resolved ending necessarily. Because that I think that would have also been, ridiculous. We
yeah.
know that something major has happened, and we need to see that reflected in the town. And the other thing I was going to say that I kind of got a lot of enjoyment from seeing is seeing the parents, because I remember in the 80s and I remember what my parents looked like in the 80s, and I swear I saw my mom and a bunch of those ladies there. I
The
was like,
blonde one
wait
with
a
the
minute.
perm, with that really 80s perm.
Yeah.
I can just remember. Oh god, what was her name? There's a girl at school called Alison Wheeler. From Heathern School back in the day, and she literally had that hairstyle that the mum had, like that blonde perm. It was so funny because
Yes.
literally the first person I thought was Alison Wheeler. I remember that. Oh, and talking to looky likeys, how about uh, the Ali
Oh
Sheedy
yes, yes,
look-alike?
she did look
It
like
was
Ali Sheedy.
so
That
cool.
Mark.
Like it was literally they just plucked her out of the Breakfast Club and just threw her in there for people that would remember the Breakfast Club. I mean, the character served
Absolutely.
no purpose at all. I mean, to run around and be like Ali Sheedy and have a romantic interlude for Argyle, but it was just you see, that's the point. This is where they nailed it. There were little bits like that. The show didn't rely on the Ali Sheedy lookalike being there and make a big thing about it. It's just like, ah, yeah, I see what you're doing, and that was it. And it was a moment and a passing moment, and then they got on with the story. And as Mikey Leto alludes to earlier on, and we've touched on in this stream, they set loads of stuff up and all of it paid off. The only question that I've got hanging, and maybe I was just so excited by the end of it, is what actually happened to the Russians. What happened to Yuri and the prison guard? I don't know if that was resolved or not. I don't think it was, or if they spoke about it.
Well, they did show that the helicopter pilot dude, was like, "Yeah, I've got to fight this thing. This thing is dangerous, and I
Mm.
can't kind of, do a crazy approach to this. I absolutely have to fight and get this helicopter going so that we can kill these creatures. It's more than just getting peanut butter into Russia now, and jeans, which they were very careful to put in
Mm.
there. You remember how the jeans were such a big deal,
Yeah, big huge
American
deal.
blue
Yeah,
jeans, and whatever else he had in there, toilet paper, I guess, because that was such another.
peanut butter and
Yeah,
blue jeans.
that's right.
But no,
So
when they actually get to America, like what happened to those guys? Did they become defectors? I can't remember. Tom, no, Molly Ringwald was the one with the red hair. Ali Sheedy was the one that was
brunette.
the brunette drawing on the table and doing the thing with the dandruff. It was definitely Ali Sheedy.
Absolutely. And so that was certainly such an important story for anyone who grew up in the 80s or remembers 80s films. But something, another thing that was that kind of stood out to the show to me, the final part that I was going to say is, you had mentioned that Dustin went and spoke to the uncle and
Mm,
told him what had happened to his nephew. And I also think it's very interesting that Eddie was planning on joining the military.
mm.
um After all this, and it's kind of funny, for someone who has the hair like that and kind of dresses this way, to
So
decide
was
to
I
go.
back in the day. I went down to the Royal Marines and
Really?
did my test and everything like that, and I had my long hair back then. So yeah, I think yeah, I was certainly. and still am, very very patriotic, and I think that was again was a really smart choice by the Duffer Brothers to say that, although this guy likes Dungeons and Dragons and smoking weed and heavy metal, it doesn't make him any less of an American. He wants to serve his country, and why shouldn't he? Whereas you would expect it would be the Jason character that would be, on his way to the Air Force and what have you. But no, Eddie's just as American as the next guy. Just he likes rock music and he likes smoking a joint. What the hell?
Yeah, I
He's a
was
young
going to
he's a young
equate it
kid.
to one person being a Marine and the other person being in the Air Force or something like that.
Yeah,
The military rivalry. It's
yeah.
like, well, hoorah! I'm a Marine, or I don't even know if it's the right chant
And
for
his
that
dad
particular.
was a full colonel in the Air Force, and he says of the Marines, was it muscles are required, intelligence not essential. So he
Right.
spells out
That
Marine,
kind
right?
of.
That's what they think of them. So
So there is sort of this friendly rivalry between the branches of the American military, and I'm assuming that there might be some kind of rival in the British military. I don't know, but
oh yeah,
it's
they all
all
hate they all
healthy.
hate each other, especially the Royal Marines and the Parachute Regiment are sort of famous rivals. But my mate Steve was in the Green Jackets, and they all think, they're all trained to think they're the best of the best, even if they're not particularly. But that's what they all believe, because I think that's essential part of what it means to be a soldier.
Hmm. And Mike Alito says, I'm a little upset that our crew didn't go back to the Upside Down to retrieve Eddie's body. I know it was a storytelling device, but it bugged me. Maybe they did, Mikey. We didn't see that part. Maybe they did.
I
So,
know I don't think they did Aram, because this is the point. Eddie's still missing, and that's why the uncle
oh,
is going to, and he puts his picture up every day.
right.
And Mikey, this that you raise a very good point about, do you want it to end in season 5? Yes, I certainly do, and I said this earlier on, but you underline it here. He has to. I will be disappointed if they brought the character back. As much as I love him, I think to bring him back now will be to sort of cheapen everything that he stood for. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
he died for a reason. He died to save his friends, and he died to save his town. As Dustin says, like, even though everybody in the town, this whole entire town hates him, they'll never know that, no one's ever going to know what he did. But I was there, and he died saving people, because obviously Dustin can't tell the uncle the full truth. He said he died to save people of this town, which essentially he did.
Yes, and Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington mentions that his nephew and both his nieces are joining the army,
Is that the
and that
British
is
Army or the US Army, or let
this is
us
a
know,
good
Gary?
question, Gary. Uh, but we are proud of our military service members. Thank you, all of you, for your service. We
I,
so
s-
do appreciate it.
I saw a T-shirt in Hannaford's, which is like the local supermarket around here, and the guy had written on the back, if you don't stand behind our military, please feel free to stand in front of it, which I thought was a pretty good message to have on his T-shirt. And they were there with their, buying their Budweisers for the and their fireworks for the 4th of July celebration. So that was kind of cool. A little bit of Americana for me there.
Now we have talked a great deal about Eddie. Oh, it is the British Army. Thank you so
Good on
much,
him.
Gary. Well, good for them, and thank you for keeping us safe. To everyone out there, thank you for your service, and that also extends out to veterans. Thank you so much for all you have done for us.
100%. You should be very
Uh,
proud, Gary. I'm sure you are.
Absolutely, you should be very proud. The other thing I was going to say is the final character that I want to talk about, and we're going to wrap this up soon, guys. I know we've been talking about Stranger Things for over an hour and a half. Is Max, this Max character
Mm-hmm.
that has gone through so much with her brother Billy. And as I said, they don't throw characters away. We saw Billy on more than one occasion in the season talking to Max, through Vecna, I guess you could say, or the
Yeah,
character was brought back in that way. And you mentioned the relationship and how uncomfortable it was for her. But Max is in a coma right now.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how they're gonna play into that in season 5. I mean, clearly she was really badly hurt. I mean, you saw her arms and legs getting broken in that horrific. Like, it was really horrific. Can you imagine how sore that would actually be? You'd be in agonizing pain if that happened. And now, so we don't know. And I fear and I wonder, is she still is a part of her still caught in the upside down, and that's why she's in the coma. And the other thing. just sorry, just to deviate from Max a little bit, where they got it so right in this season, where they got it so wrong in the previous season, they've what do they call it? They've nerfed 11. Like, in the third season, she could just sort of do everything because her powers. You can explain everything away, or because she's got superpowers. And now it seems to be back to a sort of psychic telekinesis thing. And it's just, so she, I was kind of dreading the fact that she was going to go into the room and heal Max. And I just thought, oh, don't do that, because then you could heal everybody and you open up a whole can of worms. And she doesn't. There's nothing 11 can do to help Max. Tom's saying, I think it will be a last minute thing where Max comes back at some point. Yeah, maybe so, but maybe it'll be in the upside down. Maybe she's still caught there. And maybe when they go back in, she'll be able to help them. But who knows? I mean, I'm so excited for the next season. But yes, in terms of arc, you got to think about how old that actress is, and how, as we were saying before, how they're now writing age appropriately. This is a person who's been broken by the experiences. She had been stuck with this evil guy, like the older brother. She has been severely damaged by that, and she's sort of finding her way with her new friends. But this is, she's had a tough past, and I love the way that they play that out, and I love the fact that they actually had the bottle to leave her like that. They just know this is the Empire Strikes Back of Stranger Things. As I said before, she is left in a shit state, and again, almost like Eddie, she put herself up for this. She put herself up for her friends, because they became her family, in the same way that this little Dungeons and Dragons crew, they because they're misfits themselves, they take in the misfits. She had nobody. She was a skater and she had an attitude and all the rest of it. You know, Mike and the group take her in. 11 had nobody. Mike and the group take her in. Eddie is part of that group, that he's a little bit older. They all look up to him because he's that older guy. But it's misfits getting together, and there is something about that story of the group of freaks and the group of weirdos that can. And that's very much carried over things like the Goonies and things like
But
that. And
but it's but it's not just freaks and weirdos, because remember, some of these kids were the cool kids. Steve was a cool kid.
oh, Steve was cool. Yes, yes, yeah, true. I'm talking about the original party. Yeah, Steve gets pulled into it, and he stops being such a douche when he realizes what's going on. And the development of the Steve character, as I was saying earlier on, that whole story about the motorhome and wanting to go around the country with his family and all that kind of thing. That was such a sweet moment. And I think, that the whole maxim of film is show don't tell. But even in those exposition moments, like when Max is talking to the grave, and then she's saying, and then she's sort of asking Billy for his forgiveness, but then admits later on to Lucas, that she hated the guy, and he, as much as she wants to love him because he's a brother. And when one is or Vecna is doing his whole speech about what it is he's going to do, and his evil baddie speech, it was exposition, but it was riveting. It was just so well written and so well done.
Yeah, I agree. And do you have any last things that you want to say about Stranger Things? I was going to say that I feel that this is the blockbuster of the year, and that it's certainly the summer blockbuster TV wise. We all know that Maverick has done incredible, making $1 billion now. But I think that people are going to watch this throughout the whole summer. Get your bowls of popcorn ready.
Mhm.
People are probably watching it now. From what I understand, it's been one of the highest streamed shows on Netflix, on the internet. It's beaten out a bunch of other shows for streaming, including Kenobi, which is not a surprise. It certainly is something that shows you the Duffer Brothers are incredibly talented. And Tom Jr. Jackson was telling me that the Duffer Brothers are going to have a master class. I certainly want to hear what these guys have to say. I really feel like they're kind of just very special
Can you talk some more on
creators.
that, Aram? What masterclass? Personally, sorry, chat, but I'd be personally interested to hear about that.
I don't know as much about it. Tom Jr. Jackson was telling me about it, and Tom Jr. Jackson was saying that the Duffer Brothers are going to host a master class, and where I'm assuming they're going to talk about Stranger Things and how they developed their story for Stranger Things. And certainly, it is well deserved as far as I'm concerned, because honestly, Russ, we haven't seen anything like this in a long time. to bring us a quality series like this. For everything from the beginning to end, in pretty much every theme and every arc in it, really was perfected and done in a realistic manner. It's been an absolutely refreshing show to watch, fun to watch, even with its down, sad parts. I really do think that this show has provided the type of entertainment that we've been accustomed to seeing for a good portion of our lives, but we haven't been seeing recently. So I hope that this is a steering right in a better direction for entertainment, in a better direction for shows going forward. People want quality shows, and this has really just been so remarkable, Russ. Is this going to be, are people going to try and copy this formula? Because I haven't seen too much of it. Yes, season 4 was better than 2 and 3, but even I have to admit, I'm just actually so amazed by what I've seen in these episodes for season 4. You know, are people going to try and copy this formula? Can they? What do you see going forward? Because we've seen other attempts at making 80s horror, even from original IPs from 80s horror, and they haven't been that great. So, what do you think about this, Russ? Is this a new genre that they've created, in a sense, for horror and for just entertainment as a whole now? And people want more, I think, challenging concepts in horror. Are they providing more challenges in the stories that we haven't been seeing in previous reiterations of shows, like in Fear Street, where we didn't get that challenge. We just got people running around from people, wielding knives, so to speak.
Hmm.
What do you think? What do you think in regards to the direction?
The direction. I think there's been a bit of a sea change as far as Netflix is concerned, um, and I'm not going to bang on about it too much. But there was no message, there was no political overtone in this show. It was merely showing you the governments as they were, and the things that the governments were apparently doing. There was no overt political message within here. You can boil anything down to its political message at the end of it. This wasn't overt. This wasn't shoving it in your face, as so many shows have been doing and so many films have been doing for so many years. And I rather think that this is the direction that Netflix has to go down now with its American fare. Now, there's a lot of good international stuff on Netflix, which is one of its big strengths. But I think in terms of its English language, American slash British stuff, it's the stuff that Netflix had before, when it was the only player in town, the Marvel stuff, the DC stuff, and all the rest of it. Now those licenses are gone, and now Netflix finds itself in an environment where it's having to compete with not only Amazon Prime as it was, but now it's having to compete with Disney Plus, with HBO Max, with Peacock and Discover, on all of these things, right? So it strikes me that perhaps we will see more entertainment of this kind, i.e., less messaging, less overt messaging, and more just about heroes and villains and straight up storytelling. In terms of genre, um, I I I think it would be a hard one to steal, RM, to be honest with you, because if you try and do anything remotely like it, you're instantly comparing yourself with it, and they've done really, really, really well with season 1 and season 4. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see more sci-fi horror for sure. I think maybe that'll come from it, but I don't know if you'll have a Stranger Things alike show that's along a similar theme, but set in the 50s or set in the 70s or set in the 90s or something like that. Although the next one may well be set in the 90s. I read somewhere that there was a time jump coming, so I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know about that, but hopefully this things like Cobra Kai, things like Reacher, things like the Chris Pratt one that I can never remember the name of, that you always have to keep telling
Terminal
me,
terminal
Terminal
list.
List, things like that. That these are just good old fashioned stories in different genres, different mediums, but they're away from the politics. And if we can go down that road and hit not particularly a right wing vibe or a left wing vibe, but just middle of the road, without this overt messaging, I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it, and I do hope that we can go back to a time where writers are telling stories that they want to tell under no mandate to have this or have to do that or have to do the other. Just tell us good stories, and you will find that I think if we can get back to that, the toxicity will stop because there won't be anything to be toxic about. We'll just be talking about good Star Wars. We're talking about great shows like Stranger Things, like Reacher, because that's what we want to do. This show, this channel is called Positive Fandom because we want to get excited about things like this and not have to do what we did last week and talk about a show like Kenobi, which could and should have been so excellent and just wasn't. And now here we are, 7 days later, foaming at the mouth about how awesome Stranger Thing is. And I just, I'm a nerd. I love this stuff and I want it all to be good. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I agree with you 100% on that. And Mike Alito says there is a masterclass. Tom is the one who told me about it initially, so I should say that. Mike Alito is elaborating from Masterclass. The Stranger Things creators teach you about developing a TV show and bringing it to life. Learn something about storytelling and screenwriting from the creators of
Sign me
Stranger
up.
Things.
I'm going to go buy
Absolutely.
that. Thank you, Mikey, and thank you, Tom Junior Jackson. I am going to go sign up for that after. Well, normally after the show, Aram and I have a long debrief where we talk for ages and shoot the shit. But after we've done that, then I will go sign up for that. Thank you so much, boys. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And Mike Alito says there's a lot of good content on television these days, both linear and streaming. I know you discussed Miss Marvel with R&B last night. I love that show. And yes, I did just want to briefly say before we go, um, uh, I think Miss Marvel is what Disney is supposed to be doing, giving us
Hmm.
shows that are appropriate for in a Disney concept of this idea of family still being yes, Darth Plato, I'm sorry, we're just wrapping up our Stranger Things talk and we're wrapping up the show. I think that it's so important to have a show like Miss Marvel. And thank you, Tom, as always. Thank you, Tom. But I think we need to have shows like Miss Marvel because isn't that what Disney was normally doing anyway? So, Disney needs to get back to basics to make shows like that and to make what's going on in the show appropriate and entertaining. It's got to be entertaining. You
Mm,
can't put out stuff just because you feel you have to put out something and it's not entertaining. Nobody wants to see that.
yep.
Entertain us. This is what this is about. I loved the relationships in Stranger Things because they were not forced, they were natural. And we
Hmm.
didn't question it. It was good to see how much they cared about one another. And I did not care who it was between. I didn't care whether it was three people who cared about one another, two people who cared about one another, one with the other person unreciprocated. It didn't matter. There was a lot of caring and love in the story. And
How
it was
cute was that
remarkable.
bit just before we go? You were talking about Max earlier on. How cute was that bit when um, Lucas is sort of regretting the fact that they're no longer a couple, and and they're just about to face off against this demon. They're about to tempt this demon out of hell to fight him, and then he sort of like asks, he goes, well, "Can we go to?" Writes down on the piece of paper because they're not allowed to talk. Movies next week, and then Max draws this little picture of the both of them, and he's got the really tall hair, and they're holding hands with the popcorn, and she just drew that little picture. Was just a little moment in time that they needn't have done, but it was all about character development, the maturity of these characters. Yeah, but to your point about Miss Marvel, no, I haven't seen it. I don't know if I will. To be fair, I'm not really a huge Marvel guy on that front. But no, you're right. I think, as I just said, I would really love it to get away from overt politics of whatever flavor, color, whatever it happens to be. Just yeah, they all have some sort of messaging in the background. That's fine, but just get back to some sense of neutrality and normalcy, and just give us some stuff that we can rave about, please. So yes, roll on Cobra Kai, roll on the Chris Pratt thing. I can't wait to
Mhm.
see it.
Roll on Reacher. Let's continue and get a bunch of this stuff. And guys, we're going to be ending the show now because it is almost 2 hours. Russ, where can people find you?
Well, I have a website that's 1,000 years out of date. You can reach me at contact@russellwhitfield.com. But more importantly, where can people find you, Arum?
Well, guys, you can always find me here on Positive Fandom on my YouTube channel and on Twitch. And hello, Hassani Parker, and of course, to there was one other person who was asking what we were talking about, but I don't have it in front of me anymore. But hello to you. Nice to see you. I hope you're well. This is going to be a light week of streaming. I don't have a show tomorrow night. We're not doing Toxic Femininity because tomorrow is the 4th of July. So we are off on that day.
Hmm.
And I am not going to be on the 1/6 Scale Man Network. Yes, absolutely. Next time, Norwegian Kryptonian. Good to see you for sure. Saw you last night as well. Hope you are well. The next stream that I'm going to be doing will be on Thursday with Lorena Creole and Cameron Pasha. We're going to be reviewing the Elvis movie biopic on Elvis. So that will be on Lorena's, I believe it's going to be on her Twitch channel or on her YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And we can't say enough about that fantastic biopic. And hello, Cavantino Cavalrinche says hello. Unfortunately, we won't be talking about that, but thank you for letting us know, Cavantino Cavalrinche. To be honest with you, sir, figuring out the thought of the thought, goodness gracious, figuring out the plot of Thor: Love and Thunder is certainly not a complicated process. So a leak isn't anything that I think anybody would say, no, I don't want to see that leak. The big talk on that, of course, is the beautiful body of Hemsworth. And that's the only thing anybody is talking about from that movie, honestly.
I've not seen it yet.
And thank you so much, Retro Nerd Girl.
Oh, thanks,
Surprised
Retro Nerd Girl.
but had fun listening. And you can also find me on Saturday. I'm going to be reviewing a film on Lorena's channel called RRR, which is an Indian cinema film. So do check out our watch party at 7 p.m. Robert has told me we are going to be streaming next week. I think it's going to be on Friday together like we did last night. So certainly do check out the show on Midnight Musings. Russ, where can people find you?
As I said, I've got a website that's 1,000 years old. You can always reach me at contact@russellwhitfield.com. I'm on Facebook. I think it's Russ_Whitfield or something like that. I think you friended me the other day, didn't you?
I did friend you,
You did,
yes.
yes, yes. I'm not very active, I'm afraid, but I would encourage all of you, if you've not done so already, to like and subscribe to each other's channels. We're all here to support each other, and do give this. I'm going to say it. Do give this stream a like. It really helps with the. It's a small click for you, but for our room, it
Yes.
really does help. So
Thank
if you,
you, Russ. And thank you everybody who's watching. Histoni Parker, thank you. You said you loved the stream with Rob yesterday. That was a 4-hour stream. Tom Jr. Jackson was there with me every step of the way. And boy, I am like completely exhausted from that stream. It was a fun stream, but I am tired, guys. And 10 o'clock came around really early this morning. I
Mhm.
don't know how I'm even awake. I'm slurring some of my words, and I had a really strong cup of coffee to make sure that I was on peak form. I'm not quite sure about whether I was, but Darth Plato says, try watching the Gettysburg movie. It takes place on the days of July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Darth Plato, you always have great
It's a
recommendations.
brilliant. Gettysburg is brilliant, but Gods and Generals, I thought was so horrible as a follow up to that movie. But I thought Gettysburg was absolutely fantastic. Really, really well done.
And Russ, you and I have filmed a series on historical films with the Outcast Creative, and we are going
Yes.
to premiere that show after July 4th weekend. So I can't even talk. I'm so tired. We're definitely going to be doing that, guys. So there is another series in addition to a summer of Indian cinema. There is
Hmm.
also going to be a historical film series that we're doing. Russ and I are going to be doing it. The Outcast Creative is also going to be participating in it. The Outcast Creative is another YouTube channel and professional group that does film. They make films.
They
They're
they
film
make
creators.
films, and they do drama classes and acting classes and all that sort of thing. So you've got writers, directors, actors, and they all get together.
Yes,
They have some mates in the British film industry.
yes.
Jason Fleming's one of them, and Jason
Mhm.
Fleming is a really famous actor in the United Kingdom who was in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Jason splits his time between sort of doing these really small independent English films, and then goes off to Hollywood and does something like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen he was in, and he's been in
Yes.
all sorts of stuff. So yeah, they're a great group and well worth a listen.
And they also do industry interviews, which I listen to a lot,
Hmm.
especially Lance, who is a very good friend of ours,
Yes.
which I love to watch his industry interviews. So Cavantino Calverminche is asking me, will I be performing a Bollywood dance routine? Well, you know something? Um, I don't know if I'm going to be performing one, but I might be around one. We shall see. Cavantino Calverminche. And please do recommend some Bollywood films. I have a post, a community post up on my page asking for recommendations of Bollywood, Tollywood films. So if you know any, absolutely recommend them if you've seen them and you like them. And there is a Let's Get Physical Media today. So guys, do check that out on Robert Meyer Burnett's channel, which is the PGS, the Post Geek Singularity channel. Thank you so much, Mike Alito. I needed to hear that because I just feel like I'm going to pass out any second. Um, but
You're
Mike
too
Alito
kind,
says,
Mikey.
yes, as always, you look great. Thank you so much, Mike Alito. That's so nice. Yes, I feel your pain, Tom. Me too. I couldn't get to sleep right away. And Dennis Mason says, with bells on and with knife in her teeth. And I was going to say, and with a rose in my hand. Um, guys, I have to say, for all of you out there, wind in my hair. Yes, Dennis, with the wind in my hair, bells on, a knife in my teeth, and a rose in my hand, the wind in my hair. To everybody out there watching, thank you so much for watching Positive Fandom this morning. Russ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Ari.
It's always wonderful to have you here. And for all of you out there, wherever you are in the galaxy, always do remember to please be kind.
Thanks so
Take
much,
care,
guys.
everybody.
Bye bye.